Okay, so we're going to do two things today, as I was just saying, and I want to start with money. Like, we're going to get into your revenue and we're going to get into what you need to do because it's so fun to light a fire under all of us and get us into action. But the bigger picture is like you could be the girl who goes on all the dating apps and you could be in the best shape of your life. You can be lifting the dumb weights and looking great and you can go on dates. But if you have a relationship with love or dating that is anything other than feeling safe and delicious to you, it just won't matter. It just won't matter at all. And so we can take all the action in the world, but I want to start with some deeper understanding about wealth consciousness so that we actually change our wealth consciousness. So I made some notes for you and I'm going to go through them and then I'm going to send them to you because I think reading these every day actually could be really helpful for you because the more you kind of internalize this, the more you'll internalize this. So most people think that money is about strategy, but the real game changer is your identity. So you can only ever create at the level of who you believe yourself to be. You can only create at the level of who you believe yourself to be. So if someone holds the identity of, I make just enough, then no matter what, you will unconsciously shrink back to that thermostat. So just check it. Just start to notice and check in. Where do you hold yourself? Wealthy people don't have money then, right? It's not that they have money. They believe they are money. They believe they are wealthy. It's a belief about yourself. It's not something you have, it's something you are. You're wealthy, you're thriving, you're healthy. It's not that you have a certain amount of pounds, it's that you are thin, you are healthy, you are vibrant, you are radiant, all of that. It's an identity, it's just how you feel about yourself. So that is something to know. So money, this is an important one. And I wrote this down in something it's sobering, but it's important. Money isn't something outside of you. It's a mirror reflecting back who you believe you are. So the only way that we can actually move forward is to have the awareness of where we are. So right now, whatever your relationship is with money, however much comes in, however flowy it feels, right? That is literally showing you a mirror of where you believe yourself to be on an identity level. And once you can just accept that with love, you can change it. But if you resist it or you can't look at it, then it's harder to change, right? If we just keep being unconscious about how we sabotage ourselves in any way, it's hard to change. So what does it come from? It comes from the programming. And so we want to really look at the conditioning and what are the things that have been programmed, right? So from childhood, most of these programmed bad ideas are things like money is scarce. And another one is that rich people are greedy. And another one is that you have to work really hard and sacrifice for every dollar. And then another one is that you get stability if you play small. So that's the double bind. Your life feels safe and stable if you actually don't get bigger, if you don't become visible. So now you're stuck, right? Because it's stable and safe when you're small, and all these weird things start to come online when you have money. You become greedy, you have to work and sacrifice, you abandon yourself and your freedom, all of that. So that programming is going to keep you in survival mode, and it obviously creates a ceiling. And your subconscious, this is what's so interesting about the subconscious mind. It will protect that truth at all costs. It will reaffirm it and give you evidence for it at all costs. Why do you think that is? Because that's what's going to give you safety. So it's just going to keep reaffirming that. But at the end of the day, it has to come from the level of the person being willing to witness the programming and being willing to change it, right? And sometimes, of course, that could happen by like a random occurrence where somebody meets somebody and they see someone with money and they go, oh my God, the person had money. They were so nice. They were so down to earth and they were so generous. And oh my God. And, it could have an effect, but not because you're like trying to convince someone of something. So you're just trying to become aware that we won't be able to meet our goal because we can only rise to the level of our conditioning until we change it. So we have to, and Rabbi Aaron said this in the call I did with him. He's like, more than listening to ourselves, we have to talk to ourselves. He said, God created the world with words. Let there be light. Let there be this. Let there be that. Right. So we do create from words, right? We know that in the Emoto study that words created different molecules in water. We know that the words have an effect. So you have to talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Stop listening to yourself, actually. There's a level of listening to yourself from here where it's just like you're listening to a higher power within you that you're connected to. That's different. In your head, I wouldn't listen to that. That's not really a voice that has a lot of like truth in it. So how do you change it? So you notice it, first of all, right? And you start to shift this idea that like this is conditioning. That's all that it is. And everyone's got their own version of it. And then the most important part is the identity shift, right? So, and Jim Fortin talked about this, but this is really everybody. If you're studying anybody around this, this is it. There's only one truth and all the rivers lead to it. So you're asking yourself about your identity. So the version of you who's this woman who knows that she is already wealthy, how do you feel her literally just in your body? How does her body feel? Before you even get to what does she do and what does she believe and what is she like, how does it feel to be her? Right? On a somatic level, what does it feel like to experience that all the time? Like, this is me, I'm wealthy, like I'm a wealthy person. This is it. And I remember when I was learning with Rabbi Aaron, you guys now get a little taste of him. He's really the real thing. Like he's the most loving, wise, gentle, wise, like it's just so wise and loving all the time that it's really easy to learn from someone like that. And so while I was studying Kabbalah and Judaism and all of these profound ideas, all the lights were turning on inside of me. So I felt all of that. I felt the infiniteness of the universe. I felt the love of the universe. I felt so wealthy that it didn't matter I was eating pita every single day. I didn't think about that in that way. It didn't even matter how I felt on the inside was if I already owned a palace. It was like the universe felt like it was inside of me and I was in it and it was in me. And it was like this just unbelievable quantum experience, which it is. And you can start to play with the kaleidoscope and get yourself in there, which really makes life so magnificent. So how does it feel to be in that is the question, right? And then this is the line, it's not that money changes in your life when you make more, right? It's that it changes when you decide that you are already wealthy and the money is catching up with you. Jen, I've already given you a lot and I want to say more things. So I just want to pause and let you guys reflect on that for just 1 minute.
One of the things that really connects with me is the idea that we are manifesting all the time. We're always manifesting all the time. So what identity are you backing up with every single decision, with every single thought that you're doing every day? It's all creating the identity that you're living. And of course, Cathy's been talking about this in her one-on-one coaching calls with so many of you beautiful souls who have been doing one-on-one coaching with her, that of course it's terrifying, because one of the things that those of you who have been like quantum leaping it's terrifying. Somebody reached out the other day and said, I think I'm having an anxiety attack. And we talked her through that. We supported her nervous system and she got back into this really beautiful state of flow. But of course that's going to happen because there's an ego death that is happening. There's an identity death that is happening when we decide to choose something new. But until this point, everything in your life has been supporting this identity, this certain wealth consciousness, this identity. And that's essential. It's to keep that ego alive. Everything that you do, all of the thoughts that you have are keeping that identity alive. So what we're doing is essentially saying, it's done. This is done. And it's something else now. So yes, you can decide that you are already a wealthy woman. You 100% can. And with that, we say sayonara with love. Like I do this because it's like bless and release. Thank you so much. Beautiful human being, beautiful ways of thinking, beautiful things that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation from my ancestors who came before me. Cathy often says, I stand on the shoulders of giants. The women who came before us, who allowed for us to sit in this seat right now. What is the best way that you can honor them? And often we think that it's being disloyal to our family, or this feeling, and Cathy even mentioned it a minute, there's this feeling that we're being disloyal to our family members by thinking about something differently, it feels like that, right? It feels very, very scary. But what would really honor them the most, what would honor them everything that they went through to get you this far, was for you to keep living the same cycles. It's just, that's not it.
And that was beautiful. That is definitely the biggest gift you give back to your grandparents, is to be their answered prayer. And we're going to get into that right now. So let me tell you one thing about how infinite the universe is, and then I'm going to tell you something about desire, which is very much going to touch upon maybe how to be the antidote to what your grandparents and their parents went through. So in Kabbalah, we're taught that the light is endless. It's endless light. That's why Rabbi Aaron's first big book was called Endless Light. So just really take in for a second that creation is not scarce. It's infinite. It's all the time, right? In fact, this is such a beautiful idea, but we know that there was this idea of the Big Bang is actually written about in Judaism, that there was this big bang of light and all of it shattered into a million pieces. So Kabbalah has said that thousands of years before scientists knew that. But we also believe that creation wasn't just one time, it's constantly being created at every single second. That basically, if you look at the planets and you look at the way the universe is and the temperature of the earth, like if at any moment the temperature was 1 degree hotter or colder, like we would cease to exist. So we believe as though this infinite creative force is constantly willing everything into being at every second, and it's infinite and it's always and it's constant and it's always there and it never isn't. So that's important because money is one form of light, right? It's one form of energy, and it's not out there because it's already here. It's always this idea of energy, this idea of any version of how you can access more energy is always on tap, and it's never out there. It's always here. So the universe is not stingy. It's just the most unbelievably abundant, magnificent, gorgeous thing in not in the world. It is the world. So it's already pouring in abundance like a waterfall. And the only question is, are your hands open? Right? Are your hands open? So on Friday night, when we have a Shabbat dinner, we make a prayer over this wine, and we also make a prayer over bread, because in the desert, as Jews walked from Egypt into the promised land, they were given manna from heaven, and there was always more than enough. So we always have two challahs on Shabbat. And before we make the prayer, we open our hands and we say, Poteach es yodecha u'mospilecha chai ratzon, which means ratzon is desire. If you heard any of my classes, you now are like, I know that one. Poteach es yodecha means, may I open my hands that I may be available for my desire. So we say that on Friday night. May my hands be open, okay, so that I can actually receive that which I desire. So now here comes the part that I was saying might be the answer to what it all is about. So everything comes down to the vessel and the light. Everything comes down to like how available is the vessel, because the light is already there. So the question is, how big is the light bulb? So the greater your capacity for the light, the instant the light comes in. I'm just going to say that again, because all of this complex understanding really boils down to just that, which is very simple, but it's very hard to necessarily realize it. And I'll tell you why. So the greater your capacity to allow in the light comes in. It's already there instantly. So why doesn't the light come in? What's blocking it? Take a guess, because I think it's cool for you to start thinking about this. What do you think would be in the way of that? So the whole thing comes down to, and it's so interesting, your desire is not the problem. It's your shame about your desire. The shame that you feel about the thing that you desire is the whole problem. So when you expand past that shame, then the light rushes in. So most people are constantly collapsing their vessel, because what do they think? I shouldn't want this. I want too much. This is greedy. So who's saying that? Your soul or your ego? Does the soul think it's greedy to receive? No. If somebody gives Rabbi Aaron a huge donation for his work, Does he go, ugh? He's like, oh, great, I'm going to use that to do X, Y, and Z. And isn't it interesting that people will do this around money, but what about your children? Do people do that when they're like, I'm going to have a third kid? Oh my God, that's so greedy of me. No, not really. Why? Because they put the money on the pedestal, not the kid. Do they think like, I have 4 kids, people are going to think I'm so greedy? They should. If you're using that math, then that's really what you should think. Look at me with all this love in my house. Nope. No, I'm not worried about that because people don't value children. They value the money, so they're going to think I'm greedy because I have a lot of money, not because I have the blessing of 4, 5, 6, 7 children. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all ridiculous. All of that that's all garbage, right? None of that makes sense because the math doesn't add up. None of it adds up. None of it makes any sense. So what we have to understand is that nothing is ever disconnected from the light of the creator. Nothing is disconnected from the divine. So all energy comes from the source of all energy, right? Look at your garden. It's being powered by the source of its energy, which is the sun. So money is also coming from, it's a version of energy. It for sure is. There's so many different ways that you can tap into energy. You can take a protein smoothie. That gives you energy. You can get rest. That gives you energy. You can have money hit your bank account. It gives you energy. It changes the way that you can make choices. It gives you a sense of charge because it starts to open up an infinite amount of quantum possibilities right away as you see it. It's definitely an energizer, okay? So you are safe to receive from that infinite flow. Another way to think of it is like any version of energy is just God in motion. And so the more you're comfortable with receiving that, the more it's going to move through you. You become a vessel for it. So the ego is going to whisper to you, people are going to judge me around this. Why? Because you're judging yourself. You're only going to perceive the judgment that you're already giving yourself. That goes back to shame. So what you're really saying is, I shame myself for this, so people will shame me too. Why? Because they're in shame. So now you're going to be in the static, because there's plenty of people who don't have this. I know that sounds crazy, but there's plenty of people who don't have this. I'm someone that you've gotten to know pretty well. I don't have this. There's plenty of other things that make me feel sad or sometimes take me out of the flow of things, but it's not this. This is not part of it for me. And I would say almost every single person who I spend time with, like a close friend of mine, doesn't have this. This isn't the piece that we get stuck on, okay? You don't have to be stuck on it either. And you don't have to constantly be bouncing off of the people who are, because that's just a low vibe, right? So anybody who would judge you for this kind of a thing, it's because they're coming from what? Scarcity. They're in lack. They're judging themselves. So it's like a big loop of a lot of judgment and a lot of victim consciousness where we don't even perceive that the world is really abundant and we can make so many choices and that all of our abundance is actually within us and that we have within ourselves the capacity to change the world every single day for several people. And that is what makes us most abundant. And so it's all about what's outside of us that we can't, access. Like all of that is a loop that you don't need to be in. So the soul actually knows differently because the soul knows that you can't deplete infinity. So you could just keep receiving and it's safe to receive. So here's a line that's helpful, which is just like the ocean doesn't run out of waves, the creator doesn't run out of blessings. It just doesn't. It's on tap, nonstop. Just like you just happen to read the most amazing book, there's more. There's more books that will change your life. Just like you met the most amazing person who's deep and kind and such an expander, there's more people like that. Just like you just went to Switzerland and you can't believe how unbelievably beautiful it is, you could go to Japan now too and see that. It just doesn't run out. It's nonstop. It's so extraordinary. It's so unbelievable. And you're not meant to be able to perceive how infinite is because that's how infinite it is, right? But what you are meant to perceive is how infinite it is, not how scarce it is, and therefore the shame you should have around receiving because it's so scarce. That's actually false. It's totally infinite. It's unbelievable how infinite it is, but it is. So I want you to just do this for me. So close your eyes for a second. And I want you to literally see yourself as this wide open vessel, like your heart. Picture your heart open. Picture every chakra open, available to receive energy. And how good does it feel when you take off the constriction and you just let yourself receive? And there's this infinite way in which it pours in from all around you because you're swimming in this infinite stream. And it feels so good to let yourself just allow it in. So now you don't know where you end and it begins because you are part of the oneness and it is just flowing and it feels so good. And I want you to imagine this like beautiful light and it's energizing, and wealth is a part of it and it's just pouring in. And I want you to hear your soul say to you, it is so safe to receive. And as I receive, my vessel expands and money flows in as part of this infinite experience because I am open and I am wealthy and I am healthy and I am thriving and I am alive and I am a blessing to the world and the world is a blessing to me. And I am open and available to the abundance. And I love this universe. And I love how this universe loves me back. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes. So, how does it feel to kind of walk through this? How does it feel to walk through this as a exercise? And I would highly recommend putting this exercise and this kind of consciousness on repeat every single day. It will change your life. That's why we're going to do it in here, but it will change your life. And I'm just curious what's coming up. Like, what part feels amazing? What starts to shift in your body? What do you start to notice that is opening up? And where do you notice, okay, this is now my awareness. This is where I get stuck. I do feel this shame. I do feel this guilt. I do feel this fear, right? Because it can feel very real because it's not just in your head, it's in your body. It's been programmed into your neuromuscular system, right? So I'm just going to pause. And Jen, if you want to take some reflections and just read some reflections, and then we're going to go into the next part of our day. But I want to pause here because we really could end it here. Like, this really is the work. And once this is kind of turned on, everything else becomes so easy.
Yeah, I see. Awareness that I've been so closed off to receive. Somebody else says it's beautiful, but it's hard to work through the dip. One thing that I would love to question that, is it hard to work through the dip? Because Cathy, when you just dropped us in, it was instant, like, it was just so easy and so open and so flowy. And it's like when your heart opens, actually, that's the easiest thing that there is. So sometimes we reassert this belief that things have to be hard. And I say that with so much love. It was so divine, absolutely ready for the daily repeat of this. Yeah, gratitude for dropping the shame. One thing, can I add one thing about just when our mind wants to go and reference to others? That's us finding an escape back into an old loop. It's taking you back into some kind of old pattern of attempted control. You can't control what other people do, and we can't control what other people think. The only thing that we can control is ourselves and what we're dropping into and what we're being all day, every day. And so that, like, yeah, but this, yeah, but that is actually just, it's like cycling you back into the loop, which is okay. That's just your nervous system, that's your body pulling you back into what's comfortable. It's actually comfortable to maybe judge others. It's maybe comfortable to feel a little bit of shame. It's comfortable to judge ourselves and the behaviors and actions of others. So recognize that that's simply your mind pulling you back into a cortisol loop. It's like, oh, wait, I actually have no control over what my husband does. All I have control over is myself and my beingness and my energy. So how does that start to change things when we have that awareness that that's actually what that thought's about? And Cathy, if you have anything to add to that, I would love to hear.
Yeah, I think that, look, you know, water seeks its own level. So when we're around things and we're perceiving things, we're perceiving a hologram of aspects of ourselves that are bothering us, that we're not seeing in ourselves, but we see it alive in somebody else. And at some point, we give ourselves full permission to let go of that within ourselves. And then we move into the energy of the solution, where when you're in the energy of the problem, you just keep perceiving the problem. But when you're in energy of the solution, it'll work itself out. Either that person will have a change of their own consciousness or they'll vibrate out of your life. And it doesn't matter. Everything will be fine. You know, love is all that's real. That's it. So it'll just keep finding its way to that possibility. I know that, for a lot of people, that's not, it's hard to even think that all those things are available, but I'm telling you, it's just wild that when we just accept where people are, but you can only do that once you're okay with you, because you're no longer then perceiving the parts of you that are sticky in somebody else. You're just fully taking care of your own yoga mat. And once your yoga mat is good, you don't care if somebody else can't do downward dog. You're like, God bless, it's hard. Do whatever you need to do. Like, it's your practice. You're not looking at other people's yoga mat. You're just looking at your own yoga mat. It's just so interesting how we get into everybody else's practice. It's just, yeah. Now,
Kathy, can I bring up a question
Yeah.
just because it's come up a couple of times and want to make sure
Uh-huh.
that we address how do we focus on releasing the shame specifically versus opening ourselves to receive? So there's the letting go of shame, opening to receive. Kathy, where do you find the kind of the mix of those?
Well, it's really interesting because let's take ourselves off of money for a second, because sometimes the thing that's most active is like hard to kind of like tinker with. But think about how many women have shame around having an orgasm. What is really happening there is, well, first of all, you have to feel safe to have that experience. And second of all, imagine the consciousness around, well, that's not even part of the goal. The goal is for him to have his experience, and denying yourself, right? Like, it's not even on the table. It's so interesting. I mean, now you take your mind off of that topic, then go to another topic. It's like, how many women allow themselves even one time, one season in their life to feel good about the way that they look without picking at something about their physical appearance? It's nonstop. It's like, oh, well, I don't like the way my face looks. I have a friend who's so beautiful and in the best shape of her life now. She wants to get a facelift and she actually doesn't need it. Like, to the point where like she's already and she's like, it's not for him, it's for me. I'm like, okay, I'm not understanding. I'm not computing in my brain. Like, she's 51 and gorgeous and I don't get it. She's like, I just had the consult. Like, it's just this one little thing, right? So there is so much shame that is, it's just here. It's on the table, and it's been passed down. It's been handed down. And it's also all around us. So it becomes, it's normal. It's something that everybody kind of just experiences as part of, the way that we were conditioned and raised, and the way we saw people receive and didn't lack of receiving in themselves. And I mean, how many of us had mothers that would be like, I'm going to go to have a spa day, and then I'm going to go to a silent meditation retreat, and then I'll be back. It's like, they didn't fill themselves up, So, and did their mothers do that? Like, so there's a lot there. And the more that we can have the tenderness and the gentleness to look at it, then you start realizing, oh, so of course there's shame around receiving money, right? Because women feel shame around even putting themselves first before their kids. It's like, but if you're not okay, your kids won't be okay. So you better put yourself up there, because who's taking care of the kids if you're not okay? And it's like, oh yeah, I don't do that though. I just run myself on empty. That's my style. It's like, oh, okay. So then we're going to teach that to them. But you got to have that oxygen mask on yourself. No, I feel too guilty doing that. Let me put it on them. I'll run out of oxygen. Oh, but it doesn't work that way. Right? So all of this is part of where the shame comes in. So if you start to just look at it, it's very painful, but it's also so beautiful. And everybody is walking beside each other with that. And so we can start to just notice it and how we let it go. I mean, so much of mindfulness, the reason it's so brilliant to have a mindfulness practice is my mindfulness teacher used to say that awareness itself is the answer. Mindful awareness, the awareness itself. If you know that the dog's bowl is right by the door, you won't step in it because you have the awareness of it. You know it's there. You won't step in it. You'll step around it, right? But your friend who doesn't live in the house, you're like, oh, it's like that scene in Groundhog Day. Watch your step. It's a doozy. Then he knows it's there. He doesn't step in it the 15th time. That's a good movie, by the way, for those of you who are like, what are you talking about? Bill Murray, Groundhog Day. It's a good movie. But mindful awareness practice is so good because just the tenderness and non-judgmental awareness of like, oh, I have shame there. The more you are just allowing yourself to be a loving witness, it'll dissolve itself. Because it's very hard to keep something active when you have a non-judgmental witness to it. It just starts to go away. But it's the non-judgmental witness. It's the part of you that doesn't judge it. The part of you that goes, oh my God, I see that now. And the more you can see it, the more you actually dissolve it because you can see it for what it is with love and just it is what it is kind of thing. And then you also can perceive all of a sudden what's also there, which is another choice, another way, another option. So I think it's really interesting that we're having this conversation about shame because, you know, shame is the thing that keeps people stuck in a loop. And the more that you can then say the opposite to yourself, you'll start to feel safe, right? I don't need to feel shame for being okay in my body, for thinking, you know, that everything actually is okay. And I don't need to criticize myself. I don't need to feel shame around that. I don't need to feel shame around making sure that I'm filled up. I don't need to feel shame about being abundant. I don't need to feel shame about being sexually okay and satisfied. It's like your whole being starts to go, yes, all of that makes sense. Yes, all of that is true. So it's a really important conversation, but the more that we are aware of all of this stuff, we can step into this powerful consciousness of I am an open vessel. I am available to receive. And it starts to get safer and safer as you practice it. It's not going to feel safe overnight because anything unfamiliar registers in your body as unsafe. But the more that you begin to practice it, you're like, oh my God, I actually like the Stella got her groove back version of me. This is safe. It is feel good. It's just to be like, hell yeah, this is me in my amazing day, in my amazing energy, in my amazing body, in my amazing yes. It's a hell yes. That must mean it's a hell yes for my kids. That must mean it's a hell yes for the world. I love this feeling of even being aware of what it feels like to not be in the loop of keeping myself from my hell yes. Like, this is it. Here I am, all of that. What we're going to do now is I will pause so we can make sure that we kind of like have a moment with this to kind of reflect. But any reflections, anything that you want to write down that's like a takeaway, what did you learn today that you want to be aware of about money? Write it down. What did you learn that you want to be aware of about the universe and how infinite it is? What did you learn about your identity? What did you learn about shame? What did you learn about how exciting it is to be stepping into that you're even here having the conversation about the version of you who will be free of that, who will pass down a totally different story to the people around you, to the people who you have created, the people that you're imprinting on just by knowing them.
Yeah, let's take 1 minute to really be with this because integration is so much of this. We can sit on calls all day. What is your biggest takeaway right now so far that you have had? So we'll pause for a moment while everybody writes something down for yourself. Give yourself a moment. Beautiful. The greater the vessel, the quicker the light flows in. Yeah, my block is my shame around my real desires. That's where Cathy started today. You can't deplete infinity. I loved, Kathy, when you said that money is light. That landed in my body. Like, money is light, and you are light. It's all comes from the same source, an infinite source. So beautiful. Releasing the shame, and may my hands be open to receive.
Yeah. And the more that you feel how much of it lives in you, all this light, that's really the ticket, because this amount of light that you have within you, if money is an energizer, just like the sun is an energizer, just like food is an energizer, just like vitamin C is an energizer, just like the oxygen and the molecules coming off of the ocean are an energizer, so are you. That's the point. When you understand, I am that. I'm an expander. I'm so lit that when I'm around people, they become lit. I am a shamash. A shamash is like the candle that lights the other candles on Hanukkah. Like, I am that light. Of course, it's a match. That is my experience of myself. I am lit up. I love to love. I love to create. I love to perceive. I love to play. I love this universe. It loves me back. When you are in that feeling of what lives in you, you're in it. You're in it. And then you can have it because it just is. It's more of the same. It just moves through you. There's no reason to not allow it in.